Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Paramount Fitness Podcast. If you're watching on some of our social media channels and more importantly on YouTube, you will see that I'm joined today with the wonderful Holly Thurlby. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm slightly warmer now. It's not quite as cold out, but yeah, good.
Bit windy though. Bit windy today.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So, Holly, I wanted to get you, put it this way. When I decided that I wanted to bring back the podcast, I wrote a list of people that I wanted to interview, have a chat with, have an open discussion with, and you were up there straight away. I dropped you a message on Facebook and said, Holly, can I ring you? And you were like, yeah, of course. Probably had no idea what I was ringing you about. But I was like, I've got this idea. I want to bring back my podcast, but I want to make it about real conversations with real people, rather than being like, get loads of other fitness professionals on, etc. And I was like, do you mind sharing your story? And you were like, no, absolutely not, which is great. So I want to take this opportunity, first and foremost, to say thank you, because I know what you're about to share. And it is quite a personal journey. I'm delighted to have you on, and I can't wait to see where this conversation goes. So without further ado, tell the guys listening and watching who you are, what do you do, where you're from, etc. A little bit of background about Holly.
Cool. So my name's Holly. I'm 27 years old. I've been with Paramount since 2017. I currently work as a paralegal in the employment law sector. So that's kind of a bit of my work. Outside of work, I do a lot of obstacle course racing when we're allowed, running, general fitness and fun and too much eating. And I guess the part of the purpose of today's podcast is about me having type 1 diabetes and kind of the peaks and troughs of that, and how having a long-term health condition can have all sorts of kind of implications for you and ways of getting through that.
Absolutely. And I think that's where we're going to start. I think we're going to go back to the beginning, from when I first met you. 2017 is when you came on board. I actually met you in 2016 at the Paramount Fitness annual party. Where you came along as a guest, which was great. And it's weird because we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago saying, I remember how you had your hair that night, what dress you were wearing, because you remember landmarks, don't you, of when you meet people. However, hold my hands up, I don't remember your first session at the studio.
No, I remember being really intimidated, walking in thinking, oh no, I'm so outside of my comfort zone here. Because when you met me, you just highlighted, you knew what dress I was wearing, you knew what my hair looked like and what I looked like, but I had a massive cast on my foot, which I'd obviously lived with for a year. So I was really nervous coming into the studio, but I remember thinking, I'm so out of breath, I'm going to vomit, all of these things, but also loving it and loving kind of the buzz and the environment that you get from joining somewhere. So
let's just touch on that. I wasn't going to, but let's just touch on that. How long did that intimidation last when you walked into the studio, the old studio now, the one that's no longer there?
Yeah. Not long, actually. And I think it's often bigger than, just going into a gym environment. I think a lot of women will admit you walk into a space with a big group of women or a big group of people you don't know, and you suddenly think, oh, I'm going to make myself small because all these people must know what they're doing and I haven't got a clue. So I think more of it was just a big group of people, joining. I'm not a shy person. I'm not scared of walking into rooms, kind of thing. But it was, I don't know, probably maybe a month, because once you then know what you're doing and you kind of know the swing of things, and when you're shouting burpee at somebody, you actually know what one is now. So you get more confident as you become more familiar, and you meet friends. Some of my closest friends I've met from probably were there that day. So.
Yeah, crazy. And I think everyone goes through that kind of introductory phase at their own pace. Some people, like you say, will go in there and not feel intimidated at all. Some people will never even take the car journey to do it.
No.
Which is crazy. Right. So you've just mentioned that when I first met you, 2016 annual party, which would have been in October, you had what I classify as a moon boot on.
I did.
can you give the guys, you mentioned type 1 diabetes. That's the bulk of this conversation, which is a huge transformation of what you've come through in terms of what you've been able to achieve, your lifestyle now, your management of it. It's such an inspirational story. Take us right back to when you found out you had diabetes, the diagnosis, the lot.
So that goes back nearly 24 years now. So I was 4.5 when I was diagnosed on the 12th of December 1997. And I think it was about 9 months preceding that I'd fallen off a climbing frame at school, and immediately got bruises on my body very, very quickly. And I was in a lot of pain. I think I was taken to King's Mill A&E, or I don't know that stuff. I obviously don't remember that. And I was diagnosed with something called HSP. And I won't explain the long name because I think it's Swedish. And basically it was a blood disorder. So you just need to stroke your fingers along my skin, and it would bleed, and I would have bruises. So I was kind of bruised all over my body for, I can't remember how long I was in hospital, not very long. And I had temporary arthritis because of that, and that damaged the left side of my body. So my left side still isn't as strong as my right, or I don't have as good a feeling. So later on now, when I have hypos, and I've had really bad hypos, actually my left side becomes paralyzed. So that's not great if you're having hypo by yourself. But so then that was, I think, at the beginning of that year. And then my mum started to notice, I was 4, but I started to wet the bed, drink bath water, lose loads of weight, all that. Or now you look back and there's such telltale signs of having type 1 diabetes. So I was taken into hospital and I was diagnosed, and there's no history of diabetes in my family. Contrary to popular belief, it's not a hereditary condition. But often the diabetes is caused, it's an autoimmune disease. So it's often triggered by something, and it can be that you've had an infection, it can be that you've had a cold. But obviously that incident for me back early on, kind of at the beginning of the year, had kicked my system into starting to destroy my own cells. So the scientific definition for diabetes is the beta cells in your islets of Langerhans and your pancreas get destroyed by your own body, and you stop producing insulin, which of course controls the blood sugar levels of your body and keeps you alive. It links to your kidneys, your liver, loads of stuff. Wow.
At a very, very young age.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm blessed in that way, because I have friends that were diagnosed 14 years old, 16 years old. They've lived their life doing what they want, fairly carefree, and all of a sudden you're given a rigid set of rules. So I grew up with those. This is normal to me. It's normal to carry an injection everywhere you go, scan, kind of all those telltale signs, which I think is easier to have grown up with than just have it thrust upon you.
Yeah. And you would, like you say, some of the things that happened, you don't really remember. So this has been your life.
Yeah, for sure.
No other way.
No.
Okay. So how did that impact you then going into kind of school? Started juniors, infant school, primary school?
I don't remember it really affecting me at all, because back in the day you had 2 injections a day. It's like an injection before school and an injection after school. So really was quite lucky, and obviously treatment now is so different, but I think that was very lucky. And obviously my parents were worried. My mum has been an amazing advocate for my diabetes throughout my whole life. But I don't really remember it bothering me kind of until I went to senior school, or actually it was year 6 of junior school, where it really sort of became something that people could point out, like, oh, you're different. So I'd have to eat a Kit Kat before PE, to make sure that my blood sugars didn't go down. I remember once a substitute teacher saw me eating a Kit Kat before, shouted at me like I've never been shouted at before, and marched me to the head teacher's office with my friend like running behind her, like, she's got diabetes, it's okay. Wow. But, it's not things like that. Or there was, when I was in year 6 at school, there was a girl that fainted if she thought or saw blood. So my school's reaction to that was, when I felt unwell, I had to wave a green piece of card as to not make the other girl faint.
Whoa.
And I put in I had to go into the supply cupboard to do my injection at lunchtime and things. And looking back on it, of course, you forget this is kind of nearly 20 years ago now, so disability and stuff has changed hugely in that time. But I think back to that now, and I'm still quite angry about it. Why am I in a cupboard?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Well, it's kind of like hiding you. Hiding
exactly.
you.
And
you shouldn't be doing that. Get out the way kind of thing. Can you do it in private, please?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I've never been ashamed about doing my injections kind of in front of people in restaurants and cafes. And again, I think, like, like I've said to you before, it's not my problem if you're disgusted by that or things. I've had parents say to me, can you not do that, please? Because my child's there. And I've sort of then gone back to them and said, well, sorry, that's your issue. You should be, you should be better behaved in educating your child that people aren't 100% well all the time.
Yeah, a bit more inclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so school then. Let's go there to begin with. How did it impact, like, what was your health like at this moment in time, generally speaking?
Generally, my health was fine. I mean, again, in primary school, I don't remember it being kind of a standout thing. I was fairly average sized, average weight, everything else like that. Sorry, my door's just opened.
It's windy out today, folks. It is very windy.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
Real life problems here.
Absolutely. Real life conversations with real people in real time.
Exactly. So I never really remember it being a problem, I think, until I got to senior school. And then, of course, you have all the pressures of being a teenager. I went to an all-girls school, so as you can imagine, it gets like hyper bitchy. And then there was a particularly unpleasant girl at school, and kind of it kind of disintegrated from there, I guess, is where kind of I remember it probably starting when I was probably in year 8 at school. So what's that, 12 getting on for 13? And then that's really then where the downhill began for probably the next 10 years. Okay,
so at this stage in your life, you're, as you say, healthy weight, healthy female, no kind of issues, so to speak. Having your Kit Kat before a PE lesson, you're fully able through training, you're managing your blood sugar levels through your daily injections twice a day. And your lifestyle is pretty much the same lifestyle of someone of your age.
Yeah, I went to dance. I think I did theatre studies. I was active.
Okay. So then what happened? When did you start to notice a decline in that?
So I think I got quite badly bullied from, I think, being in year 8. I mean, I was the age where the internet really first just started for kind of teenagers. So we didn't have mobile phones at school yet, but we had like not Facebook, MySpace and things like that. And I remember once my email account and my website got hacked, and porn got sent to some of my friends, death threats got sent to some of my friends, really was really quite unpleasant. And I think that then made me, and that behavior, that then made me want to hide away. So I wouldn't do my injection at lunchtime at school because it'd be in front of people. So my school was tiny, that school that I was at the time. So we ate our lunch in our classroom. So you were surrounded by the people that were in your class, and there was about 4 or 5 of these girls that bullied me. I'm sure they wouldn't say it's bullying now, but certainly it was to me. So I stopped injecting at lunchtime to stop anything making me stand out. Okay.
So you say this is year 8?
Yeah.
How old are you? Year 8, 12?
12, getting on for 13.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what was the health implications of that?
At the time, not a lot. Only not injecting at lunchtime didn't have a huge effect because, of course, you're still doing your injection at home in the morning, still doing it in the evening, and then obviously before bed. And I'd have a different blood test monitor at school, so I wouldn't do a blood test either. And I'd get home, and obviously they'd be super high, but it could be explained away.
Right.
So I think that it didn't really have a long, didn't really have a nasty effect at that stage. Short term kind of effects were fairly minimal. I was thirsty.
Okay. So no major things. But what about your mental health then? Did it start having an impact on your mental health then?
I don't think I really knew, not that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I didn't correlate it to diabetes or thinking about my mental health. I just thought, oh, well, I'll get bullied less if there's one less thing to point out to me. I don't think, mental health was certainly never discussed in the way it's discussed now at school. I've got sisters which are 14 and 9. My 14-year-old sister will have done mental health, stuff at school. I mean, that was never done when I was at school. Kind of the most we did is, here's watching an hour's documentary from Al Gore. Our PSHE was nothing like that mental health. So right. I didn't really know what mental health was.
No, but what I mean by that was kind of like, you've obviously made a conscious decision to not do something in front of your peers because it took the limelight off you, it took the pressure off you, and it took the bullying away.
Yeah.
So now you would classify that as a mental switch.
Yeah, for sure.
That shouldn't have happened.
No, I agree.
Happened. Okay. Then what happened? So you're 12. What was the rest of your teenage years like?
I think, I was very active outside school. So I joined Knots AC. I competed in shot put, discus, javelin and hammer because that was cool. And I was never very good at running. So I competed kind of at athletics competitions. I went to a theatre group. So I sung, danced and acted on some West End stages. We did some performances in the West End. I had outside of school, I had friends, I did really active things and had a great time, went on great holidays, I wouldn't say I had an abnormal kind of teenage years.
Mm-hmm. I did not know any of that. So I've known you for 5 years, going on 6 years, and I didn't know that once you'd ever thrown a shot put, ever thrown a hammer, a javelin, and you were in the West End.
Used to be county champion for javelin.
That's incredible.
When I was 13, it was about 21 meters as my PB. Something ridiculous.
Wow. What got you into that then? So you joined Knots Athletics Club, and then kind of did someone just say, look, like nowadays people go scouting. I was having this conversation with somebody last night saying that you played a sport because of how you're built. You don't have the body because of the sport you play, for example. So a swimmer is going to be probably quite slim, tall, etc. A runner will be quite slim. Someone who's quite short, stocky will be powerful. Mm-hmm. Did someone turn around to you and go, hey, Holly, you look like you could throw a javelin? Or did someone just put a javelin in your hand and you threw it and everyone was like, oh my God, this girl can throw?
No, I joined Knots AC because my grandfather was a semi-professional athlete and he was part of Knots AC. He competed at some really high levels and kind of I wanted to do something that kind of related to him. That was his old club. So I joined and enjoyed it. I loved throwing a shot put, who wouldn't, and just was something I enjoyed. So then we did competitions through that, obviously at kind of the local level and kind of the midway level. So I just sort of fell into it really. I used to go every Monday and loved it.
That's amazing. Wow, didn't know that. That's thrown me off a little bit. Very good. Okay, so how old were you when I met you? So you're 27 now. How old would you have been? 22. Okay.
Yeah, 22. Yeah, I've just been 22.
So when I met you, you had a moon boot on. Mm-hmm. What was the reason behind the boot? Just explain a little bit of detail behind that for those of you that don't truly understand how type 1 diabetes can have this kind of effect on your body.
So do you want me to kind of explain then between then and there about what happened between?
I was going to touch on that in a second because I wanted to kind of then fill the gap.
Okay, so the reason I had a moon boot on, as Lee called it, actually it was a full cast that they used to fit each week, then they used to cut it off. Mm-hmm. So it was a full cast. So I had something called Charcot foot. So basically the nerves in my foot were damaged and starved of oxygen. So my bones disintegrated. So my big toe, long bone from my big toe to my ankle and my second toe completely disintegrated. So I had to then be put in a cast to allow them to heal. But sometimes healing can never happen. So I may never have been able to walk again. But luckily I can. But your foot has to be in a cast. So every week you go to the hospital, it gets cut off with the saw. They check it, they do the temperature of your foot. And if it's more than a degree hotter than your other foot, then the cast gets put back on and you get assessed every week.
And how long were you having that treatment for?
So I had a cast on for a year. So 52-ish weeks that my foot was in that cast and got changed every week. Yeah. And
was there anything that triggered that?
No, so it's a complication of diabetes. It's super rare. It's super rare for anybody to have it in their 20s. super rare for anybody with type 1 diabetes to have it. You often see people with type 2 diabetes who perhaps are also very overweight. You'll see like ulcers on their feet and things like that. So Charcot is quite common in people from that. But for me to have it, no, super rare. It just, one day I just started to get a sore foot, walked around on it for 6 weeks. And we now know that was 6 weeks when I was walking on a broken foot.
Wow.
So no wonder it was sore.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned about the gap. I wanted to talk to that because that's when I'd met you.
Yeah,
obviously I didn't know anything before then.
Mm-hmm.
Please go ahead and share your story. So what was between your teenage years to when I met you then?
So probably, I mean, the bullying was a start where I stopped injecting at lunchtime at school, and then that disintegrated fairly steadily until I think I probably went to uni. I think it was probably worse kind of when I was 17, and then I went to university and I more or less stopped taking all my insulin. So, the common question is, well, why on earth would you do that? Because that keeps you alive. Well, yeah, it does, absolutely. But what I know now that I didn't know then is it makes you lose weight. So I think when I went to uni, I'm 5'4", I weighed about 71 kilos. So I was the heavier end of my healthy weight, we'll say, for BMI purposes. And I noticed a drop. And of course, when you're 18, you go to uni and all of a sudden your clothes fit better and you're getting more compliments or you're feeling better in your aesthetic. That's addictive. I think also, it just disintegrated from there really to the point at which, so that was when I was 18, and then really that went downhill until really the crux point was I was in Geneva doing some work experience at the UN, and I couldn't go for a wee. I don't think I had a wee probably for 3 days straight. And that was really weird. And I was really thin by this point. I was really unwell, and I came home and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to work, and my grandma came around to visit me at home, and she said, I'm taking you to A&E. And that was the start of going into hospital and getting treatment. But at that point I probably could go maybe a week without injecting any insulin. So for anybody that knows about symptoms of diabetes, so when you have so much, when your blood sugars are so high, you're very dehydrated, you get something called ketoacidosis. So, you hear about the keto diet and stuff like that. That's obviously healthy for people without diabetes, not so much if you do. But you get something called ketoacidosis, you get really bad headaches, really bad stomach aches, and dehydrated. So my mum used to buy like these big 5-litre bottles of water just to have in the house, and I would drink a 5-litre bottle during the night.
Wow.
So, I was so dehydrated, but because of not taking insulin, I could continue to eat. I could eat more than I've ever eaten before. I couldn't eat that way now. I could eat more than I've ever eaten before and still lose weight. And that was just by not taking insulin.
That's mad.
Which is mental. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, absolutely mad. So you were doing this willingly. You knew you were doing this.
I think willingly is not quite true. So I remember I used to stand in the shower every morning and be like, no, today is going to be the day I'm going to take my insulin. I'm going to feel better today. And I think that in hindsight now and looking back on it, for many people that I've spoken to since, you think about an eating disorder and it's like having your rational self in your brain fighting this other voice. And this other voice isn't conscious you. It is a disease, and it's a mental illness. And no matter anybody shouting at you, your loved ones pleading you to do things, nothing will help in that realm because this other voice is just completely in control of you. So knowingly, yes. Willingly, no. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. The reason why I said that, and probably the wrong word to use, was because you started off by saying that by reducing or not taking your insulin or injecting your insulin, you knew you could lose weight.
So I didn't know that at the time. So I didn't know the correlation.
Right. Okay.
That happened steadily when I realized. So it was a control thing to begin with, going back to being bullied, it absolutely was a control thing. And again, I think read now and talking to people, eating disorders are very rarely about food and very rarely about weight. They're about control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, control is you can put what food in your mouth. That's how, you know, lots of anorexics would say, well, I can control what goes in my mouth. So I was doing exactly the same thing, but with insulin.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a side effect that I didn't know at the time, but once I did know, I wasn't mad about.
But you had every intention every day
Yeah.
to take your insulin, but this voice just overpowered you, no matter how much you tried to fight it.
Yeah, and it would be the fear as well that then obviously you know, I started to read online and people say, you know, if you have X amount of insulin, you're going to put on a stone. You know, it was, and then that fear creeps in as well. So, you know, saying that I think when I went to uni, I weighed 70 kilos, and by the time I was hospitalized, I weighed 43. So, you know, that for somebody who's 5'4", 43 kilos is not a good weight. And I still used to look at myself in the mirror and think, I'm overweight, this bit sticks out. You know, I've got some photographs I would never share with another living soul that I think, wow, how am I alive? How did that get up every day? So yeah, it wasn't healthy.
That is insane. Okay, so before we press record on this today, I said to you, like, I was going to get blown away because it's all well and good reading a book on type 1 diabetes, and as personal trainers we understand type 1 diabetes, we understand blood sugar levels, type 2 diabetes, lifestyle habits, etc., but there's nothing that will teach you anything other than living through it. And I said to Holly before we even press record, I said, I'm buzzing for today. I said, I'm going to learn so much because I don't live in your shoes. No. I don't know what it's like. I don't know the psychological battles that you go through, how you manage it, etc. So once again, I'm very thankful for you coming on and sharing this because it's so eye-opening. Okay, so what happens at 43 kilos?
So that was the day I was taken into hospital. I was very, very dehydrated, obviously, because that's what I said earlier about being kind of very, very thirsty all the time. And literally a doctor said to me, you need to stop drinking water now because you're swelling your brain. If you keep drinking water, you will flood your brain and you will die. So I think when I was in hospital then, I was only allowed ice cubes because they would melt really slowly to give me a bit of... So at 43 kilos, my hair was very thin. I grew thicker hair on my arms and legs because your body tries to keep you warm any way it knows how. Your nails are broken and dry and horrible. Just generally, your body is just struggling, I think, to keep going. It doesn't know what's happening, and on anybody at that weight would be kind of very unhealthy at that height. But on top of that, I also have an organ that doesn't work properly. So my body was fighting not having enough fat and muscle and anything to function, and not having something it needs to keep itself alive and to keep itself fighting.
Mm-hmm. So what was the kind of route that you had to take to recovery?
So route to recovery was quite odd. So I was in hospital for a few weeks, not because of diabulimia. I was in hospital because my bladder had stopped working. So there's no doctor that will tell you that they know about diabulimia. The doctors that know about diabulimia are because they've had patients with diabetes that have suddenly lost weight. It's not registered as a medical condition to the NHS, so the support, although it's growing, is still pretty poor. So I was treated for the fact that my bladder stopped working, and that was because the nerve damage associated with not controlling your diabetes is severe. So my bladder, the nerves stopped doing this to make you wee. Mm-hmm. That also happened with my bowel. What else happened? I think at that stage, mainly it was my bladder and my bowel that were the issue. And just generally, I got this very bad shooting pain that they couldn't diagnose, which is in my legs, all kind of around my bottom half of my body. So I was on liquid morphine for that. So I the main thing was sorting out my bladder. So for 18 months after I came out of hospital, I had to catheterize. So I couldn't have a wee. I couldn't pass urine at all. And slowly that came back, luckily, but that's, perhaps slightly later on. So so I was treated for that in hospital for 2 weeks. I came out of hospital. I think I managed 4 days out of hospital and then was taken back to hospital because my pain was too bad all over my body, the nerve damage. It was almost like my body had hit a wall, and every bit of pain was coming out there and then, and it just couldn't cope anymore. It just had enough completely.
Wow. So body really is fighting itself.
Definitely. And there's bits of those weeks in hospital that I don't remember. My parents have said that I said things, that I was worried about whether I was going to die and things like that, which I don't remember. But my body clearly wanted to fight, but it was tough. It was tough going, certainly those few weeks. And even then, we've not even touched about then trying to deal with the mental health side of it or any of the other side effects. So when you don't take insulin and then all of a sudden start taking insulin again, your body almost goes into shock. So that shock for me was I started to get blurred vision. And it was odd, but it was explained away because I was on a tablet at the time called Tramadol, which is a very strong painkiller and often used in nerve damage. And one of the side effects of that is blurred vision. So I came out of hospital in the August on 30 tablets a day. So I rattled quite a lot. 30 tablets a day, my insulin, catheterizing as well, and this blurred vision that was very odd. So my mum and I booked an appointment to go to Boots Opticians. I've not had an eye appointment in a while, and I went, saw this lovely optometrist, and she said, I don't want to worry you, but I'm going to, how long have your eyes been like this? And I was like, about 3 weeks. I'd come out of hospital early August, this was early September. She said, I'm going to ring Eye Casualty now and say that you're on your way. You need to tell them what's happened and you need treating now. So obviously we had no idea what any of that meant. So Mum drove me down to eye patients, and they do something called an OCT, which is a camera, takes pictures, you stare at it and get the little dots and takes pictures of the back of your eyes. And I had something called macular edema. So the backs of my eyes were swollen, full of fluid. And I met this remarkable man who I will forever be in my debt till, called Dr. Aaron Young, who now unfortunately lives in Australia. And
well, fortunately right now.
Well, fortunately for him, for sure. But I do admit I cried when he left.
Bless you.
And he said, yeah, you've got macular edema. This has happened because your body's gone into shock from taking insulin again. And literally it'd been like a change of my eyes overnight. And you need treating now. So my first treatment happened that night. For anybody squeamish, I'll just warn you now. And I went up to the operating theatre. I laid down. I looked down towards my feet and had 2 injections in both eyes. And I had that procedure 3 times for both of my eyes to get rid of the swelling, which is quite gross. And then that developed further. So then because of the swelling, then something else happened where my eyes started to bleed. So I was back at work by this point, and I kept seeing like a black mark in my eye. And I used to think, oh, like I've got something in my eye, I'll try and scratch it out. And so I went back to clinic and saw Dr. Young, and blood vessels had started to grow at the back of my eyes because there was too many of them. Then they bled. So what I was seeing, the little black marks, was blood in the front of my eye. So they try and get rid of that. So I had 20 rounds of laser in my eyes. So you're awake for that. You just sit and like this. And for 10% of people, that doesn't work. So I was one of the 10%. So I then went on to have 3 general anesthetics and 3 things called vitrectomies, which is where they put you to sleep and they perform keyhole surgery on your eyes and they remove the back of your eye. So I've had that done in my left eye and then a month later in my right eye, and then my right eye operation went wrong. So I have pulling, my back of my eye started to pull and got bad scar tissue. So then I had to have another one to clear the blood, but I now do have a permanent problem with this eye because of that. So that's kind of a long lasting effect of the diabetes complications.
Mad. Absolutely mad. And this is the thing. People just go, oh, you got type 1 diabetes. You just have to inject yourself. Oh, you've got type 2 diabetes. You need to manage your insulin and your blood sugar levels and improve your lifestyle. And that is all they see.
Absolutely. And the media, I think, plays a huge part in that. And I think it's really important for anybody in life that you never compare each of the situations, because, you know, I have a condition that I can take insulin for and keep myself alive. There are some people that don't have that option. You know, they get a diagnosis and that's it. That's their lot. Or people that have very horrible, very short-term illnesses. But we all are fighting our own fight. You know, and somebody once said to me, but you can't have a day off from your diabetes. You have to be on it all the time. You have to be on it all the time, because
so true.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. Okay, so how old are you now? Not now, at this time.
Oh, at this time. So that was actually 2016. So you met me after my first eye operation, before my second eye operation. This was happening at the same time as my foot. So sometimes I go and have laser in the morning and then a foot change in the afternoon.
Whereas a normal girl of, how old would you say, 22? Yeah, 22, 23.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, would have probably been going to get their eyelashes done and a pedicure and a manicure, whereas you were getting an eye injection and half your foot sawed off.
Yeah, casual.
You know, yeah, exactly. What else do you do on a weekend? So we then met, right? Now, you came on board to Paramount. I think your stories, I mean, I've just got a little bit of goosebumps, actually. Just an amazing story. And again, we said before we press record that the journey that you've been on, what you're capable of doing now, is just insane, considering what you've been through. But again, people don't take that. They don't know that. And that's why I wanted to get you on to share your story, not because you have to prove anything, but I just think it's so enlightening. It's so empowering. And people go, oh, you know, Holly's fit. You know, she can squat what she can squat. She can deadlift what she can deadlift. She can do chin ups. She can do all these burpees. Yeah, she's fit. She's 27. But they don't know that.
Yeah.
But now they do know that. And I'm sure that there's a completely different perspective and a completely different level of respect, because it's not like you're just, like you said, everyone's got their own journey. Everyone's fighting their own battles, etc. What was your experience of the type of training that you now do prior to 2016?
Zero. So the only kind of fitness I'd done is I'd been like a member of Holmes Place when I was like 10. And I'd gone to a kettlebell place that was like a small PT place. And you'd have kind of 10 people in a class, but you'd focus on kettlebell work and some other kind of ancillary work, but nothing with bars, nothing, kind of not focusing on the difference between kind of doing HIIT stuff and doing more strength stuff. So my knowledge and my breadth of experience was very, very narrow. Yeah.
And you came on board what is called team training. What sort of journey have you been on personally with your fitness? You, like you said, when you first came in, you were very intimidated. You were like, what is this place? Who are these people? Can I do it? Etc. The spectrum of you walking in to who you are now, and sorry about this, I keep getting emails pinged. I should have put do not disturb on. If you're watching visually on YouTube, which I'm hoping this will get uploaded to after this, the backdrop that you've got is incredible. You now have a home gym. For those of you that might be listening to this, you know, in 2022, 2023, we're currently recording this during the global pandemic of coronavirus. So a lot of people are training from home, but you've gone above and beyond. You've invested and you've got yourself a snazzy gym, well decked out, strength cage in there, barbells, plates, etc. How does a girl who walked into a studio being super intimidated get to having the confidence, the knowledge, the know-how, and the lifestyle commitment that you, because you train quite frequently, to now have the confidence to just pop into your home gym and train and know that you can train and you do it with confidence?
Wow, what a big question. And I'm sure I'll go off on a million tangents answering it. I think for me, you know, joining somewhere like Paramount was great when I was at the very beginning of my journey, because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that, you know, you saw, and again, the education is changing. You know, I thought, oh, if I'm lifting a bar, then I'm gonna put on loads of muscle. I'm gonna be like one of those muscle women that walks around like this. You know, it's just not the case, is it? You know, but I didn't really understand anything about training. So coming to Paramount gave me kind of an idea of working out what I liked and what I didn't like and what made me tick. You know, I think that's been a really big lesson for me and for friends that I've spoken to that do say things like, oh, how do you get up in the morning and train? How do you do this? And it's about finding something you love. And that I think hasn't just come from, I really enjoy lifting heavy weights. I really enjoy doing HIIT. I really enjoy doing all these different things. It's come from a range of that, you know, training with really good people who do educate each other, you know, having the best trainers that I can say to you. And I think I even say to you now, Lee, remind me why I'm doing 1-4-1-4 again. What does it do? And, you know, having that educating yourself as much as possible, I think has been really helpful for me. And also having clear goals. I think when I joined Paramount 4 or 5 years ago, I had no idea what my fitness goals were. I just wanted to get fit. And I think now that's not enough. That's not enough to know that I just want to get fit. I wanted some goals and some aims. So told you I'd go off on a million tangents. So
it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to jump in real quick because I can't take all the credit, and I certainly won't take all the credit. Very good friend of mine, your other trainer, Mr. Daniel Thurlby, must take a lot of credit as well. For those of you that don't know, some of you will who listen, me and Dan worked together for 7 years, maybe even 8 if you include our previous place of work. But me and Dan worked together for 7 years at Paramount Fitness. Then in 2016, Dan decided to set up Thought Performance. Our lives went different ways. Children got involved, etc. Mr. Thorpe went and set up a fantastic little studio, which has since moved from where it was originally located to what I would classify as an even better location now.
Agreed.
So every cloud. But yeah, he has been a huge impact on you as well. So like I said, I can't take full credit and I don't deserve full credit to getting you started, but Mr. Thorpe's been involved a lot. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's about having a range of people that you can go to, isn't it? Because you know also that I am friends with and have been trained by somebody that works with Dan called Caitlin and Charlotte at Ecliptic, and again they give me something different. And I think the four of you all combined really have built me up in terms of education, know-how, enjoyment, everything that encompasses why I love training. I can pin to at least one of you and kind of the reasons for that. And, I also have to give credit for my partner, Mark. He's been a huge support. His knowledge is probably as close to a PT as I've known for somebody that doesn't have the professional qualifications, the support that he gives me to drive on those tough days. And, he got me from not being able to run 100 meters to be training for the London Marathon. So, I have to give him some credit too. But I've just found something I love, and I love lifting heavy weights, and I love having a goal and finding that. And equally, as much as I love doing 5x5 deadlift, I love now going on Zoom. Now we're not at the studio and you saying, right, every minute on the minute, 10 burpees, go. And it's about having that, something that sparks you and drives your passion. I love a challenge. You know, if somebody say to me, right, do 10 in a minute, I'm like, right, doing 10 in 30 seconds, getting 30 seconds off. You know, it's about finding that drive and not doing, I've never done training or Paramount or any training I do because my primary goal is an aesthetic. My primary goal is to get fitter, to get stronger, to get faster. And as soon as you get to that headspace where that's your goal, then aesthetically what will be. But I think that is my biggest learn over the past 4 years, is that I don't want to be a size 6 and wear a bikini, but do I want to lift 150 deadlift? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's not there yet, but you know, it's coming, you know.
I think we should actually touch on that. We'll come back to that in a minute. Hold that thought, because that's a great place to go. And I think it's a very powerful message. I give props to Mark. He certainly brings the best out of you. You bring the best out of him, and you know, he's your training partner. He picks you up on down days, you pick him up on down days. He's very experienced now. He's got a good level of knowledge. So yeah, props to Mark for, well, I know what your running plan was like back when you were training for the London Marathon, which unfortunately got cancelled. But going to the girls quickly, I don't personally know them, but you speak extremely highly of them, which is a testament to the impact that they've had on your life as well. And like you said, you know, I'm not taking credit. I'm sure if we spoke to Dan, he wouldn't take credit. You've got, it's weird. There's 5 of us, me, Dan, Mark, Caitlin, and Charlotte. Yep. 5 people. And they say that you become a combination of the 5 people you spend the most of your time with. So you've got a pretty good fitness. You've got a pretty good fitness connection there.
For sure.
So yeah, props to the girls as well, because like I said, you've mentioned them before and spoke very highly of them. And
touching on girls, you know, both girls at training and Charlotte and Caitlin, one of the things that I found wonderful about Paramount, spending time at Paramount, and it was the first time I saw women in a gym sweating and dripping and, you know, working hard. And I think for women, it's quite an intimidating space still. And, you know, that's been one of my really big learns, that some of my closest girlfriends now have seen me at my worst, you know, shock, horror, you know, and I think that's super important for anybody, you know, perhaps people that have gone through eating disorders and things, problems with your aesthetic, meeting other strong women, not strong in deadlift or squat, but strong as people, and the fact that fitness is such a place of equality. And I just love that about the environment as well.
So I'm going to go back to what you briefly touched on then, because like I said, I think it's quite a powerful thought. A lot of people, both men and women, but we'll look at it from a female standpoint, because I want your opinion. You mentioned that you train to become stronger, to become fitter, to become better, but there's this whole social media pressure. There's this whole judgment that puts a lot of pressure on both men and women to look a certain way. So therefore, and you know that I do these walks and talks in the morning on my Instagram stuff and whatever, and I just ramble. And, you know, whether one person listens or 100 people listen, I just want to try to get people thinking a bit different. And I said it last week, and I said, why is everyone getting so obsessed with calories in, calories out? I must train tonight so that I can eat this food. I must, I ate 500 calories of a cheesecake, therefore I must burn additional 500 calories. It's like a bank withdrawal. It's like, I've earned $2,000. I'm going to spend $2,000. I've saved £100. I'm now going to spend that £100. And I just think that that's a really bad relationship. And I think what you just said was so important, that you shouldn't necessarily, you said that you want to get stronger, you want to get stronger, you want to get fitter, you want to get better. That's what you train for. And the aesthetic side of things is a byproduct of those 3 things and more.
Yeah, definitely.
So my question to you is, again, we both have this ability to go off on a bit of a tangent. More and more women should be having that, and men, more and more men and women, but I want a female point of view, should be going with that idea in mind to train.
Yeah.
But they're not.
They're not. And I see it more, I have to admit, I see it more with older women than anything. Perhaps that's because I see older women joining training and things like that. But it's all about the semantics around food, isn't it? And we'll see it in the media. You see it, oh, what's your cheat day meal? What, you know, what, or I've not done my 10,000 steps today. I've not burnt X number of calories. I've not done this. I've not done that. And it is an obsession with numbers. Yeah. And I think if you think, and that does harken back to disordered eating and relationships with food and kind of your mental well-being. But women need to eat 2,000 calories a day and men need to eat 2,500 calories a day. Is what we get taught. That's what you get taught. And if your BMI is not this, your BMI has to be under 30, otherwise you are overweight. I went for an appointment at the hospital about 18 months ago, and somebody did my height and weight. And she looked me dead in the eye and said, I just need to let you know your BMI makes you overweight.
I remember this conversation because you came to the studio that night, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And I was really angry. And I looked at her and I said, do I look overweight? Have you asked me about my lifestyle? Have you asked me about my muscle mass? Have you, why are we so obsessed with numbers? And I have to take it from my point of view. It took me a long time when I began a healthy relationship with food, not to guilt myself about food. So until I did some of the obstacle course racing that I now do when COVID allows, I did one of those, and for the first time I allowed myself to buy a whole pizza and eat a whole pizza and order a pizza, and that was such a big thing for me. And I still have that relationship. I can't eat pasta because it's carbs, because it's gluten, because it's eggs. It's all a nonsense, isn't it? Basically, but it is this. It's drilled into us. Oh, an apple's 100 calories, so is a G&T. And
yeah, big point. Yeah, comparisons and being like trade-offs.
Yeah,
trade-offs, and it's not like I want to eat an apple because I enjoy it and it tastes good. It's like, oh, but I've only got 100 to play with. That's what I should have. It's like,
yeah.
I had this comment on my Facebook page the other day about Greek yogurt versus low-fat Greek yogurt. And I just simply worked out it was a matter of 30 calories between the 100 grams of each of them. If you're looking at just the caloric value, and it's like, this is not belittling their concern, but if we're starting to really worry about 30 calories, are we missing the point?
Yeah, exactly. And we all have those ideas, don't we, about what we will and we won't eat. I'm sure I could eat more protein because I don't eat a lot of meat, so I should get protein from somewhere, but not because, I will eat this number of grams of protein because I'm lifting this weight and it will make me stronger. And yeah, that may be my aesthetic choice in the future or in the near future, but actually I should be eating more protein because it protects my muscles, which protect my organs that keep me alive.
Yeah.
And everybody wants an aesthetic, but ultimately just eat the food.
I would much rather be surrounded by people that owned what they have and they were powerful in their mindset and confident with what they could do and how they performed and how they slept, etc., than someone who was an absolute nightmare to be around, that was just always counting calories, etc., and probably just wouldn't be very good fun at parties. No,
and I guess part of it as well, and I am very vocal about this with friends and family, is that I think Weight Watchers and Slimming World are the work of the devil. I really think they are horrific for both your mental well-being. A food is being described as a sin. What does that even mean? I've got friends that won't use oil because Slimming World says it's bad, but will eat something completely bizarre. I'll eat 15 baby bells because it's only 15 sins, but I can't have a tablespoon of olive oil. That's not building healthy relationships with food.
No, and this is the thing. I actually had this conversation with someone probably about 6 weeks ago now, that I said, you shouldn't be using the word sin. And again, this is not belittling the comment, but it just goes to show the power of these programs. Her response was, it's not spelt the same.
Well, and I can see that. I can see I can see why they are, that's no criticism of the person that said that. That is how these programs make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon you see how many people have done Slimming World for 3 years because they go up and down and up and down and up and down. If it really was a program that would help you, it would talk about fitness, it would talk about lifestyle changes, and you would just see a decline back to what's healthy for you, and that'd be it, and you wouldn't pay after 6 months. But it doesn't work like that. And I could go on forever.
I think we might have to get onto another podcast for that. But no, I agree with you to a certain extent. I agree that, I mean, put it this way, the way I see programs like that, and I totally get your opinion, but if, say, for example, Margaret goes and she loses 5 stone on Slimming World and therefore reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, etc., then it's been beneficial for her.
For sure.
Okay. But yes, I'm totally with you on the whole labeling of food choices, sins, cheat meals, good food, bad food. And I would wholeheartedly put my hand up and say, when I started in the fitness industry, or even when I started Paramount, I used to use the terminology cheat meal. Yeah, there's people that you will know that I turned around and said, go on, have yourself a cheat meal this weekend. You've earned it. And we've moved on from that. And obviously, like I said, I can put my hands up and say, oh, maybe it was the wrong terminology. But this, it doesn't build a good relationship with food.
No, I'm not gonna say I'm whiter than white. When I was training for the marathon and I'd done a 14-mile run, finished off at Castle Marina, I treated myself and had a McDonald's breakfast. And okay, probably 50% of that was because I felt like I earned it. And also I thought, I'm really, really hungry. Do I want some healthy porridge? No, I want a burger.
And also, one thing that probably makes your relationship with food more spherical and more balanced is that you're actually quite a good, would I say cook or baker?
Chef.
Oh, sorry, chef. Because I know you're partial to banana bread. I mean, the whole of the nation got behind the banana bread movement because of COVID. But you can bake cakes. And you're pretty good. I've seen photos and I've tasted. So yeah, and I think it's important, going back to the seriousness of this conversation, is it's important that people work on, not saying that you can just change it like that, but people work on creating a more balanced approach with both training and nutrition.
Definitely. And I think what has made a difference for me, and some people will find it boring, but we all live super busy lives, pre-COVID. I think COVID's probably slowed us down, but we all live busy lives and we don't have as much time to necessarily put into our daily eating. And provided a lot of the reason bad eating comes into play is because you don't have time and you can't be bothered and you're tired and all of that. So actually a big change it's been for me is that I eat the same thing 5 days a week. I have the same breakfast, I have the same lunch, and I meal prep dinner on a Sunday, and I eat it Monday through Thursday night. And that has allowed me consistency to then not have to think about it, but now I'm getting good balanced nutrition, I'm feeling full, and then you know what, in the middle of the day I fancy a couple of biscuits, I fancy this, fancy that, I do, and I don't have to think about it. And
you've created that and you've built that over time, because I know the type of foods that you eat, you're going to be quite well nourished, whereas someone who has 2 Weetabix for breakfast, a Boots meal deal, and various other brands are available, and then a takeaway at night, if they do that Monday to Thursday, they will become malnourished. So having the same meals Monday through Thursday, when they're containing an abundance of vitamins, minerals, good amounts of fat, carbs, protein, etc., great. Because as you will know from trial and error and practice and building this lifestyle that you've got, there's 2 things that will always be rotated, and that's your nutritional choices and the exercises that you do in the gym.
Exactly.
Your staples, your deadlifts, your squats, etc. Right, we've got a couple of minutes to wrap this up. It's been amazing. I've absolutely loved this. I could carry on. I mean, I've got stuff to do, but I could carry on. Okay, so you are where you are now. You've got a great backdrop. You've got your home gym, your training. COVID's happened. You've gone through this incredible journey since you were 4 years old. We haven't even touched on the implications of the mental health battles and stuff in your later years, and I'm I feel a bit bad for that, really, but we've just gone where the conversation went. What's the future hold for Holly now? What obviously a lot of stuff still up in the air. We have had a little bit of light flashed at us last night, that we kind of have a bit of hope in the summer of this year, or even in the next couple of months. But what's next?
So actually, I've just booked us onto all of our obstacle course races for the rest of the year. So fingers crossed, COVID dependent. Some have been moved, some have been cancelled, but that'll kick off in July. So I think we're back up to 15 events now. 2 have already been moved to next year. So fingers crossed, COVID safe. We'll be back to obstacle course racing in mud and touching other people and climbing through barbed wire before I know it. And then kind of the big challenge for me for next April is a London Marathon. So training of that will kind of start back end of this year. So that's going to be my biggest, I think, challenge ever, in terms of controlling my diabetes, my foot, running 26 miles, not crying.
26.2. Make sure you get over that finish line. 0.2. Get over that finish line, Holly. Just quickly, you were meant to do the London Marathon 2019?
2020, last year.
I thought it was moved twice now.
So 2020 April was moved to a virtual one in November.
That's the one, yeah.
And then this one this year in 2021 isn't in April, it's in November. So I've deferred because I didn't want to do it in November at the end of the Spartan season or the end of the obstacle race season. So I've moved it to next April.
Right.
And then after that, I've got a 20-mile obstacle course race. So my legs are going to love me.
They are. But this is why I love your story so much. And this is, again, why I wanted you to share your stories, because you were told that you wouldn't be able to use them. Yeah.
And every time I run, I picture that doctor that told me I'd never be able to wear normal shoes again. I'm running and I'm smiling.
Wow. What an incredible, incredible story. So those guys that have been tuning in on whatever platform, Apple, iTunes, whatever it's called, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, or if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the backdrop. You'll see the emotions that Holly went through as she shared her story with you there. I can't thank you enough for sharing that with me. There was so much that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, your transformation's blown me away anyway from what I did know, and now I've just got a completely new level of respect for you. What you've gone through is amazing. You continue to inspire a lot of people. We talked about it before we press record. We won't have too much time to talk about it. When people get to know you, they know that you're such a pleasant young lady, very charismatic, very driven. Hopefully we've blown the intimidation factor away. Holly Thurlby isn't that intimidating.
No, really
although
not.
we talked a little while ago when we were at the studio about your very, very stern resting bitch face. That one. But you're not intimidating at all, no?
Intimidating me? No, I think people perhaps think I am, and I slightly worry sometimes. But I think somebody on your group had put and we'd said, oh, amazing weight loss, or when I met you, I thought oh my god, you were really fit, but you were so welcoming. And that's the thing, isn't it? You don't see people's journey behind it, and I try and build up people because I'm still going through my journey. It'll never end. But that person said, oh, I'm really feeling crap today at training. Well, you're better than the 99 people that are on the couch, Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about. And that person then commented in our private Facebook community that evening, or at a later date when we posted her transformation, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Saying that you are one of the inspirations behind her keeping going, because she was in a session with you and Mark. She was honest. She said she felt inferior, that she wouldn't keep up, but you were very welcoming, and she obviously publicly thanked you for that. Holly Thurlby, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved every minute of it. I can't wait to share it. The sun is blinding me coming through this window. I know that you have, and please do accept my apologies if I'm not meant to mention this, but I do know that you have an Instagram account that's quite fitness based, and you share a lot about your diabetes and the journey that you've been on. Where can people find you?
I'll have to double check the name of it. So I think it's Happy Lifting Running. It is let me confirm for you. It's happy.lifting.running, and that's on Instagram. I get loads of people with diabetes messaging me, asking me for advice or just to have a chin wag, but I'm nice. Come and talk to me. Come and offer me some advice. I'd really appreciate that.
Well, I'm hoping that after an hour and 10 minutes of listening to you, and for you, again, sharing your story, they will understand and now know that you are nice and that they can reach out to you. So yeah, happy.running.lifting.
Wrong way around, I think.
Oh, got it wrong.
Happy.lifting.running.
Oh, so close. Happy.lifting.running on Instagram. I'll stick it in the comments below. Holly, thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much. I've loved it.
I'll leave you to it. Guys, thank you ever so much for tuning in. Feel free to give us a review. Also, feel free to comment below, ask questions. If you know somebody with diabetes that could use a little bit of help or support, fire your questions in, pop them on the YouTube section below, stick them on Facebook. Wherever you're coming across this, please do get in touch, because I'm sure that Holly will be more than happy to help and offer some advice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much. Until next time, I shall say bye-bye.